السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. ثم بعد. Brothers and sisters in Islam, today inshallah, at long last, we are going to wrap up our ongoing series on the story of Prophet Adam alayhi salam as it was related in Surah Al-Baqarah. Believe it or not, we've been talking about this, I think, for around 2 months now, which just goes to show you the economy of expression and density of meaning in the Quran. That this story, which really takes up only around a page in the Quran, we could spend so much time elaborating on its meanings. And despite all this time, we haven't really done more than just skim the surface of the vast ocean of meaning contained therein. So last week, we talked about the aftermath of the expulsion of Adam alayhi salam and Hawa from Jannah after they ate from the tree. And we saw that unlike in the biblical narrative, which was characterized by rage and anger after this happened, in the Quran we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately forgave Adam alayhi salam and Hawa after their transgression. In fact, we are told that Adam actually approached Allah, and not only did Allah forgive him, but Allah actually gave him the words to the prayer to ask for forgiveness. فَتَلَقَّى آدَمُ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. So Adam was given the words of inspiration by his Lord. But despite this, even though he and Hawa were forgiven, they are still going to be sent down. They're still going to be sent down to the earth. They're still going to be sent down to the earth. And we continue now in the last few verses telling us the story. قُلْنَا اهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا جَمِيعًا فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى فَمَنْ تَبَعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Allah here is saying, go, descend, all of you. There will come guidance will come to you. And those who follow that guidance, there will be no fear on them, nor will they grieve. There will be no fear on them, nor will they grieve. And it's very curious, the claim that's being here, that those who follow the straight path, the guidance of Allah, they will not be struck with fear or grief. And we might say, looking around us, that this isn't true. Even Muslims, they still experience grief and sadness and tragedy and terror and all the traumas and miseries that you can imagine. And this is true, but this isn't a contradiction, right? This misunderstanding stems from a too literal understanding of what's being promised here. Right? It's not that because we believe that we will not be tested. Right? In fact, Allah throughout the Quran repeatedly promises us that we will be tested, not despite us being believers, but especially because we're believers, especially because we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Especially because we claim to hold that position, we will undergo numerous trials. What's being promised here to us, though, is that no matter how seemingly painful those trials are, no matter how seemingly horrific the things we experience on earth are, in the end, we have been promised safety and security. Right? Not just in the hereafter, but ultimately a promise that whatever happens to us in this world too will also be for our own benefit. And this should remind us of a hadith from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. He said that wondrous is the affair of the believer. Right? Wondrous is the affair of the believer. For whatever happens to him is good. Right? If he is blessed, then he thanks Allah, and this is good for him. And if he is afflicted with harm, then he is patient, and this is also good for him. So in either case, there will ultimately be good found therein for the believer. Even the moments of pain will present us with opportunities for spiritual growth, for opportunities to improve our spiritual well-being. So ultimately, though we might feel fear and grief in this world, Allah's promise to us is that in the end, everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. And this is a great assurance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is assurance to Adam alayhi salam and to Hawa. Even as they are sent down from Jannah to earth, they are given this promise, this assurance. So the entire affair unfolds in quite a different manner than we find in the biblical narrative. And then finally, we move on to the verse after this, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. And those who disbelieve and lie about our signs, those will be the companions. Those will be the companions of hellfire, and they will dwell therein for eternity. And what's very striking about the phrasing here is that Allah tells us these will be the companions, ashab in nar. These will be the friends of the fire. Right? As if the hellfire, was something that they were striving for, something that they were chasing after. And so in the end, they are given what they chased after. Now, the essential contrast made in these two verses, it's between those who follow the guidance of Allah and those who disbelieve and lie about His signs. Right? So it's not just between those who believe and those who disbelieve, but rather between those who follow the guidance of Allah and those who reject it and lie about it. So it's not enough to just believe, but you must take action based upon that belief. And this is something that we actually discussed in one of the khutbahs a few weeks back, that in our deen, action is an essential component. Action is an essential component of Iman. Right? There is no Iman that is not grounded in action, which is why probably the most common formulation in the Quran, the most common commandment in the Quran is when Allah talks about الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, those who believe and do good. Right? Because neither exists without the other. Your belief, your faith in Allah should motivate good actions, good deeds, and that in turn should deepen your faith. So it's a cycle, it's a self-reinforcing cycle. Now after this, the narrative in Surah Al-Baqarah, it turns elsewhere, right? It moves away from Prophet Adam alayhi salam. And so this is the end of the story of Adam alayhi salam as it is related in Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, before we move on, from the story of Adam, I want to spend a few minutes just sort of recapping the entire story from beginning to finish, just a very quick summary, and reminding us of the major lessons, the major messages from the story, because a lot has happened, over the course of the past a lot has happened in the course of these 10 verses. So, how did the story begin? Right? Let's go all the way back to the beginning. The story of Adam alayhi salam, the story of humanity, really, in the Quran, it begins with a question from the angels. Right? This is the question that framed the story. And this is the question that the story aims to answer. Right? This is the central thematic concern of this narrative. Right? It's when, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs the angels that He will create humanity, they respond with a simple question. Right? And what was that question? أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءِ وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. Are you going to create on earth they who will spread corruption and shed blood while we praise you and glorify you? So the angels here are asking a question that has been asked by many, many people throughout history, right? Which is, why this violent creation that has this potential for so much evil, for such vile action? So the angels are concerned, they're confused, because the angels are already there. They're perfect. They're programmed to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the rest of the narrative here, every part of it answers this question in one way or another. And in the end, that we see that the angels, they weren't necessarily wrong in their observation. Right? They observed something that was true about humanity, that yes, human beings can be violent, yes, we can be destructive, but this was only a glimmer, this was only a partial truth. It was they were blind to the larger design, to the larger truth. And so immediately after that question, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He taught Adam the names, and then He had Adam say the names, and then He asked the angels to say those same names, and they could not, right? They were not capable of doing so. And as we discussed then, names here is really, it's a symbol or a metaphor for knowledge itself, for particular type of ilm that the angels were not given. And so this is one way in which the superiority of humanity was demonstrated to the angels. That humanity was given this ilm and this capacity for growth, for learning that the angels did not have. And after this point was established, what happens then? The surah moves on to when Adam and Hawa disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that moment is so important because it is in that moment that they become moral beings. Up until now, they had existed in a perfect state, in a state of perfect obedience to Allah. And then they were given a choice. You could obey Allah and eat from everything but this tree, or you could disobey Him and eat from the tree. This is the first choice that humanity ever faced. So Adam and Hawa, when they ate from the tree, they made a decision. This is the very first decision ever made by any human being. And so this is how, so in that moment they became moral agents. They became moral beings. People, a creation that has a choice. Right? The angels don't have a choice, and nor do the animals, as we discussed. They are both programmed to do certain things. Humanity, we are given a choice between right and wrong. We can choose to go either way. This is our power, this is our blessing, and this is also our curse. Some of us will choose rightly, and some of us will choose wrongly. So the picture being painted here before us over the course of the story is that the same thing, that the very thing that makes it possible for humanity to commit acts of great evil is also what allows us to commit acts of great morality, of great goodness. Right? And what's that same thing? That is our free will, our ability to make choices. Because we can make a choice, we can make bad choices, we can make bad decisions. We can hurt ourselves and we can hurt others. But we can also make decisions that improve ourselves and improve others. Choices that conform to the will and to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are moral beings because we have free will. Right? And it's because we have free will that we are moral beings. See, they are intertwined. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He demonstrated to the angels that humanity has an intellect. Right? They have an ilm that the angels don't have. And this intellect, this ilm, is expressed in the choices that humanity makes. Choices that the angels themselves cannot make. So this intellect is what enables our free will, and our free will is what enables, it's what expresses that intellect. So this is the profound truth, that we as human beings, we are inherently moral agents. We are always making choices. And so once Adam and Hawa made that choice, they were then sent down here to earth, not as a punishment. Right? Not as a punishment, because they were forgiven. They were forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they were always going to be sent down to earth. Because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the angels He was going to do. That He was going to create. He was going to create this creation that would dwell not in paradise, but initially would dwell on earth. So they were sent down to earth. And here Allah tells them that they will be given guidance. They and their progeny, which is us. We will be given guidance. Right? And then it'll be up to us whether we follow that guidance or not. And if we follow that guidance, then we will realize our true potential as moral agents, as those who can grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our actions. Right? Through our actions. And so the entire time that we spend here on earth, this is really a developmental phase for us. We're here to grow. Right, to grow spiritually, to realize our potential as this special, blessed creation. Right, so our time on earth is a developmental phase for us. It's where we, through our intent, through our will, grow. Right? I mean, look, if I take a banana peel and throw it, say I take a banana peel and I throw it onto the road, and then a few hours later, a robber comes by and he slips on that banana peel, and because of that he breaks his leg and he can't rob the bank he was planning to rob. Did I commit a good deed there? Have I done anything? Do I deserve praise for that action? That I threw this banana peel, instead of throwing it in the garbage like I was supposed to, I threw it on the ground and left it there. And so by chance afterwards, someone slipped on it and I stopped the crime from happening. Right? A good thing happened because of my actions, but I don't get any credit for that. right? Because there wasn't any niyyah there. There was no intent, right? And so to truly act good, we need to have that intent. And then we need to have the will to carry out that intent. Right? A flu shot is good for you, right? It helps protect you from a virus. But does the flu shot itself have any moral status? Is it committing a good deed by helping you? No, it's just an object. It's a thing. It doesn't do anything, right? It's the person who is holding the shot. They're the person with the power to make. They're the person with the power to make decisions. So this is our power, and this is our purpose here on earth. Right? We will be faced with many trials and tribulations, but the purpose of those trials and tribulations is to ultimately improve us. Which is why when we commit sins, when we transgress against Allah, we are hurting no one but ourselves. Right? This is the truth behind the dua that Adam a.s. made when he went and sought forgiveness from Allah. Right? What did he say? He said, ربنا ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. Allah, we have transgressed against ourselves, and if you do not forgive us, if you do not have mercy upon us, we will be from amongst the losers. Right? So when we transgress, we are only hurting ourselves. We are only hurting our own development. And so it is the fact that we can make decisions, good decisions and bad decisions. This is what's so incredible. This is what's so incredible about humanity, right? And a computer that is programmed to never make any errors, to never make any mistakes, right? Would we admire that computer? Right? It's programmed to never make any mistakes. There's no challenge in there, right? That's just the way it is. So there's no real virtue in there. Virtue comes from the capacity to choose the right road rather than the wrong one, right? When we have the option to not come to the masjid, when we have the option to drink alcohol, to commit fornication, to do all of those things, and then choose not to do them, that is what real virtue looks like. But some people will not make the right decision, and so they will spread evil and corruption on earth. But again, the same ability that lets them do that is also what lets them do the opposite. It's also what lets them do the opposite. So this is the truth that is revealed by the story of Adam a.s. And so this account of the origins of humanity, it doesn't answer or doesn't address every single aspect of our being, but it does highlight the most fundamental. It crystallizes, it really helps us focus in this concentrated form on the most essential aspects of who we are, of why we are here, where we came from, and where we are going. And so contained in summary in the story of Adam a.s. is actually basically all of the major themes that the rest of the Quran focuses on. So there's really it's almost like a table of contents, right? The blueprint for the rest of the Quran, the blueprint for our deen is really established. It's established here in the story of Prophet Adam alayhi salam. And so again, as I mentioned at the beginning, everything that has been said, that in these sessions over the past 2 months, it really is just skimming the surface. There, we could have spent many sessions on each ayah, on each verse in this page of Surah Al-Baqarah. So there really are vast oceans of meaning. What I hope we were able to do here is at least get a glimpse, get a basic understanding of some of the most important ones. And so inshallah, next week we are going to still talk about Prophet Adam a.s., but not him specifically, but rather his sons, Habil and Qabil. So now they have come down to earth, him and Hawa, and they have children. Now the story of humanity on earth is beginning. The story of humanity began in Jannah, and now it is going to continue here on earth. So what happens next? So inshallah, next week we're going to begin talking about the story of Adam's son, Habil and Qabil, and there are many lessons contained therein, which we will elaborate on then inshallah. So jazakallah khayran, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.